Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio in the Spirit Society of Virginia, here in one more Friday Inspirational Talks. It's our public meeting where we gather together to learn more about Spiritism. And why do we learn about Spiritism? Because Spiritism is the promised consoler. At a time on earth when we're transitioning to time, a new era, we need consolation. We need encouragement. We need new hope. And Spiritism brings it all. So we're here with you to enjoy this moment of learning, to enjoy this moment of deepening our spirituality. Science has shown to us that whomever practices their spirituality, a deep sense of religiosity, they live better. They have problems, but they face it differently. They take decisions from a totally different angle. So we are here with you with a very, very special friends. Our friends who are always here at the Spirit Society of Virginia, and now a special guest. Before we go to that very time, we're going to invite you to the inspirational message that Camila is going to read for us.
Thank you, Vanessa. Good evening, friends. Tonight, we will read a message from the book, Our Daily Bread, by the Spirit Emmanuel and the medium Chico Xavier, Chapter 8, called Anxieties. Anxieties trigger many crimes, and they never construct anything useful on the earth. Invariably, hasty persons have all the odds stacked against them. In contrast to tormenting anxieties, nature's lessons on patience speak to every sector of the human pathway. If people were born to be anxious, it would be the same as saying that they have come into the world not as laborers to fulfill a sanctifying task, but as unredeemable souls in despair. If people would reflect more judiciously, they would recognize the opportunities for service that the moments of each day have to offer, and they would know how to look after their own endowments. Of course, the scenery changes constantly, compelling us to confront unpleasant surprises as a result of our inappropriate attitude towards happiness or pain. However, our obligation to progress daily towards the good is an essential imperative of the law. Anxiety tries to assail generous hearts because Earth's pathway hold many dark corners and many problems that are hard to solve. That being the case, let us remember Peter's prescription. Cast your anxieties about your hopes on our Heavenly Father, for the divine love desires well-being for all of us. It is right to strongly desire the victory of the light, to persevere in the search for peace, to discipline ourselves for the union with the higher realms, and to persist in attuning ourselves to the highest spheres. But do not forget that anxiety always precedes the fall. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Camila, for opening with such a message that really makes us rethink about our feelings. And now we invite everyone for our initial prayer. Let us not forget that prayer is communication with God, as Kardec says. But when we pray together, it's another level. How do we pray together? We follow the person who is leading the prayer, thought by thought, feeling by feeling. It's not about a collectivity of individual petitions. It's actually a new exercise for us. It's an exercise of mindfulness. It's an exercise of the heart as well. So we invite you to join us so we form this current of prayer together. Dear Mother, Father God, we're deeply grateful for life. Right now, we want to feel ourselves as immortal spirits, beyond the current personality, the current conditions of life. And we ask, who are we, dear God? And we can feel in our connection with you the answer. We are your children. And that is all that we need to know and to feel. We are the children of the Creator. You who love us before we even realized we existed. And now, evolving a little more, we realize that you made us your co-creators. And every day, we pray that we may co-create with you consciously and with love. We want to leave the chain of reactivity in our daily lives, which pertain to the times in which we were at the animal kingdom, but no longer fits for us. We want to take action in the good. So that's why we need to ask you, please bless our homes and our spiritual network. Please help us be useful day and night, whether we are awake in the body or emancipated during sleep. May we stay strong during adversities and never give up, cherishing joy of living and the hope of days ahead of us. We look at the horizon of life and we see new beginnings sprouting through our new attitude of goodwill, feeling the presence of the spirit mentors of Kardec Radio and the Spirit Society of Virginia. We're certain of your protection and guidance, and deeply grateful that you're granting us the permission of this therapeutic moment for all of us. Thank you, God. And so be it. All right. So, dear friends, what a day. thinking about the future, preparing ourselves every day for our inevitable progress. But progressing consciously is a whole new, different way of living. And today, we're going to begin by sharing with you that we're going to study a topic that is most important for us. It's about the workers of the last hour. Did you know that that's a passage of the Gospel according to Spiritism by Kardec? And what is that all about? Is it about us? Especially for all of us who are connected to the speaking of the English language around the world, speaking Spiritism. We have a special invitation tonight to think how we can partake in the dissemination of this wonderful way of being, the Spiritist way. What is to be a Spiritist? Well, God is so good that brought to us Roberto Watanabe. I'm going to share the screen soon, but I want to share a little bit about him. In the Spiritist movement, he has been the president of the Spiritist Federation of the state of São Paulo in Brazil. And he has been contributing with the English speaking movement thanks to the connection with Elsa Rossi that's how we came to know of him in the United Kingdom. And to our joy, he speaks English. I wish I could talk to John De Rosa, whom I know is here, and he could share a few thoughts as well, because it's a dream for us to have someone who's so committed with Spiritism come to us and share much that can inspire us to do more. Because, friends, there's a whole lot more to be done. We're welcoming here also Bruce Ness. Thank you, Bruce, for joining us as well. We have an email from Kardec Radio to you coming out today because we got a contact for you. I know you sent us a request and we finally got a contact for your request. Michelle, who is here, Daniel Pion, and many others. So thank you so much for joining us. The ones we can see, the ones we cannot see, a big hug to you too. He also was the director of continuing educational courses at the Federation in the state of São Paulo, and working as a director of the Spiritist philosophy course as well, and a writer at the Soar magazine, which is the magazine in Portuguese at the Spiritist Federation in the state of São Paulo. By profession, he got his bachelor's degree in philosophy from the University of São Paulo, and then his master's degree in business administration from two titles, two universities, PUC and the University of São Paulo. We have much to tell you about him, but more than ever, we want to hear from him, and he's here with us. We want to welcome him. Thank you so much, Roberto, for being with us at the Spiritist side of Virginia and Kardec Radio. How have you been? I think you're muted. Sorry, Roberto.
Sorry. Hello, Vanessa. Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to be here with you for the first time, and nice to talk a little bit about our spiritism
Yes,
doctrine.
Roberto.
Yeah.
Roberto, before we begin opening the space for your presentation, we want to ask you, how has the pandemic affected, how has it affected the Spiritist works at the Federation in São Paulo?
Well, actually, we closed our doors since March of last year. By the middle of March of last year, we closed the doors, and we opened only last month. And at the beginning of August, we start to do some activities, but just internal. We still do not attend the public. So we pretended to do that beginning by the beginning of October, and we hope that by the beginning of next year we can go full. Not full because there will be some restriction. We think, but at
Yes.
least we can open our doors again.
Yes. So everything went online, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, that was a big challenge, and it was very interesting to us because a new world opened to us spiritists, right? Because we didn't think about utilizing the Google Meet and the others virtual meetings. And today we have our courses, our spiritual assistances. All of our activities are uh, through the media. Yeah. So you have been with us a couple of months ago. So uh, we found another ways to keeping working.
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Congratulations. And Roberto, I'm going to share the screen. You're going to stream the PowerPoint, right?
Okay. Uh, that put it here.
Hold on a second. Let me
Is
do it
that
now.
okay, Vanessa?
Yes, it's beautiful.
Okay.
So, Roberto, now we're all yours, and we'll be here on the background. And if people have questions and comments, please do so because this is a learning opportunity for all of us. Roberto, we are looking forward to learning more from you.
Okay. Thank you, Vanessa. So today the idea is to make a presentation about this parable from the Gospel of Saint Matthew, and who is also, as Vanessa said, on the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 20. And so we were going to see this parable of the workers of the last hour. And then after that, I will make also a brief presentation about the spirit, the São Paulo State Spiritist Federation, where I work. So, and after that, we can open for comments or questions. Okay, so let's start by this parable, wonderful parable from Jesus, which is it is easy to read, but it's not so easy to understand. So let's start by the words of the Jesus himself. So we see there in the Gospel of Saint Matthew in chapter 20, um, Jesus saying that the kingdom of heaven is like the father of a family who went out at daybreak in order to hire workers to his vineyard. And then, having agreed to pay them one denarius, well, he went out and he found some workers there, right, in the city. And then, having agreed to pay them one denarius per day, he sent them to the vineyard to work there. But then the father of a family returned again through the day. Well, he did the same at the third, the sixth, and ninth hour, and he found other workers there waiting to be hired. He hired them and sent them to his vineyard, and promising to pay them what is reasonable. And then at the end of the day, at the 11th hour of the day, he found some unoccupied workers, Jesus says, and he hired them too. So all these men went to work on the father's vineyard. Then at the end of the day, when evening came, the owner of the vineyard paid the workers from the last to the first. So those who came at the 11th hour received their salary, let's say. Then the father or the owner paid 1 denarius each of those workers, and did the same for the others, those who had come on the 9th, 6th, and 3rd hour. And then finally, the first one, which the father had hired in the morning, early in the morning, the father called them, and then all paid to them also the same 1 denarius. So everybody received the same salary, 1 denarius. And then those who had come early in the morning, well, they complained with the owner, right? Because he said, well, we worked the whole day, and then this one that came last at the end of the day received the same salary as we. So it's not just, right? It's not fair. Then the owner replied that he had paid them, the first workers, what he agreed with them, because actually he had agreed with them that he would pay 1 denarius per day, and that was what he's paid. Then if he decided to pay one denarius also for the others, so that was his decision, right? So this is the conclusion of this parable. So Jesus concluded by saying that the last will be first, and the first shall be last, because many will be called, by few will be chosen. So this is a parable. And then we have many interpretations of this parable, but one of them that we can see in the Gospel according to Spiritism is that one that we picked from the chapter 20 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. And then what we can see is that the parable, as is the essence of a parable, it talks about something from the day-to-day activities, but there is some symbols behind that, right? Jesus used to use analogies, and through these small stories, he was trying to transmit to us some moral teachings. So we can understand, for example, the father of the family as God, right? And we can understand all the workers from the first hour to the 11th hour as the humanity as a whole. And we also can understand, for example, the vineyard where those workers were going to do their job as the world. So the vineyard is the world, the workers are the apostle, the workers are the humanity as a whole, and the owner of the vineyard is God. And the kingdom of the heaven, which is mentioned at the beginning of the parable, we can understand as, let's say, a happy world, right? So what one of the meanings of this parable is there on the Gospel according to Spiritism, and where the spirit that do that, or they interpreted the parable saying that the first workers that came in early in the morning, they represent the first religious men, let's say, like Moses. Moses was about 12 centuries before Christ, right? He lived by that time. Then the prophets, who, for example, Isaiah, Jeremiah, who lived about 7 centuries before Christ. Then we have the apostles, who was contemporaneous to Jesus, the martyrs, and that lived in the first centuries after Jesus, and all the initiators of the early Christianity. So these are the workers that became, they was hired in early in the morning, right? And then we had the others who came at the third, the sixth, and ninth hour. Then the next one was the church fathers, learned individuals and philosophers. Church fathers was the men who they had a Greek culture, Roman culture, and they became Christians. And then we have among the church fathers, for example, we have Saint Augustine, right? So Saint Augustine lived in this from the fourth to the fifth century, and learned individuals and philosophers. Well, Saint Augustine was a philosopher. So we have lots of people from these men who lived during the medieval period, right? Like Origen, who lived by the third century, Saint Augustine, fourth in 50th century. We have Saint Thomas Aquinas, who lived on the 13th century. So these are the others guys, right? That were hired by God, let's say in this case, right? And then finally, those who came at the 11th hour, well, are we the Spiritists, right? That had been announced since the coming of the Messiah, because Christ had already announced, right? When he were going to leave us, he said that he would send the consoler, right? The promised consoler. And these are the Spiritism, which came at by the middle of the 19th century with the work of Kardec, Allan Kardec. And then so that these workers of the last hours are we, Spiritists. Right? So this is one of the interpretation of this parable. And then then we have that question: why the last workers received the same, or the Spiritus here, who is interpreting the parable, says, or even a greater recompense, right, of the first workers? Why is that, right? So the answer is because they will profit from the intellectual endeavors of their predecessors. Well, that means that, for example, we know that the Spiritist doctrine is founded on all the workers done by all our predecessors. For example, if we think about the Spiritist philosophy, for example, it is based on all these the workers of the philosophers since the beginning of philosophy, right? And on ancient Greek, for example, we see here in the Gospel according to Spiritism, in the introduction, we see that Kardec mentioned, for example, Socrates, who lived in the 5th century before Jesus, right? Before Jesus coming. Socrates and Plato was considered as predecessors of the Christianity and also of Spiritism. Then we have, I mentioned Saint Augustine, and we see Saint Augustine himself here in the Gospel according to Spiritism, and in chapter 3 or 4, if I remember well, he talking about many worlds, right? The primitive world, the world of the trial and expiation, regenerative world, the happy world, and celestial world. So Saint Augustine is there on the Gospel. He is also there on the Spiritist book, right? On mainly at the end of the Spiritist book. So all these philosophers, all these thinkers, all these men who did these big intellectual endeavors, as the Spirit says here, is present, including in the books of Kardec, right? So that's why we receive the same recompense, because we benefit from all of this knowledge that they developed through the times, right? And as the Spirit says here, many are alive again or will come back in the future to complete their former task. So we can think, for example, the life of Emmanuel, for example, right? We can see Emmanuel, who was contemporaneous when he was a Roman senator, right? He was contemporaneous to Jesus. And then we see in the novels that he dictates to Chico Xavier his story, right? Through the times. And then we see he coming back again and improving his knowledge and also developing himself the knowledge of the Christian message, right? And so that's why we, for example, we Spiritists, as the last workers, we not only receive the same because we benefit from the works of our predecessors, but we can even receive a great recompense because on top of all this, we also do our work and we add something in this intellectual construction, right? So that's why we could even receive the great recompense. But that depends, the Spirit says, on how tough we work on that, right? That's why he says here that the wages will be in proportion to the merit of our work. Right? Their work actually is our work. We are as the last work, right? The works of the last hour. So this is an interesting interpretation here from the Spirit who dictated that in the Gospel according to Spiritism, because we then come to us, right? Understand that the workers of the last hours are ourselves, the Spiritists, right? So what should we do then as last workers or workers of the last hour? And then we have that on the chapter 20 for the Gospel according to Spiritism, when another Spirit talks about the mission of the Spiritist. So he says, "Oh, true followers of Spiritism, you are the chosen ones of God. Go forth and preach the new tenet of reincarnation," this key word, and of the elevation of the spirits. Because through reincarnation, we will acknowledge our real essence, right? Like Vanessa mentioned in the beginning, our real essence of immortal spirits who just go through life, through reincarnation. We are going to developing our skills, our knowledge, our moral side, right, of our being, and then we elevate ourselves in direction to God. And then he continues, "You will speak to individuals who will not want to listen to the voice of God, but it doesn't matter, right? Because he says, the ground will only produce a crop through repeated efforts of the evangelical hoe and plow. So we must do a constant work on that. If people doesn't take much attention what the Spiritist message says, life itself with all these problems, this situation will make them at one point turn their attention to the Spiritist message, as it's happening to we ourselves, right? So this is what this Spirit is saying here, so that we must be perseverant, have lots of perseverance in doing our job, right? And then he said, "Do set out on a crusade against injustice and iniquity." So that is especially in this present world where we are living today, all this violence, all this injustice, iniquity. So we must take a message from of a fraternity, of a justice, of a love, to in order to change the situation, right? So, and he says that the attentive peoples will joyfully take in your words of consolation, fraternity, hope, and peace. And we will have some traps, right? Because there are those, even incarnate or discarnate, right? Who don't want us to succeed. So they will prepare lots of traps. But here the Spirit says, and it is interesting that this sentence here is always mentioned by the Spirit Bezerra de Menezes, right? When he's talked through Divaldo Franco. And he says that the traps that will be set for you don't matter, because only wolves fall into traps for wolves. So we shouldn't be concerned about that, right? Just go forward doing our job. And then he says that the great battalions of the disbelievers will vanish before you, before us, like the morning mist at the first rays of the rising sun. So it's a message of persevering, right? Go forward. Don't hesitate, right? And do what needs to be done. That is the work of the. That's the job for the workers of the last hours, who again are we. And then he says that the moral and philosophical upheavals will occur at all points on the globe. This is what is happening here, right? In this contemporaneous world that we live. And we can see that since the last century, right? The 20th century was a very complicated century. We have 2 world wars, lots of experience of Nazism, fascism, or all kind of authoritarianism, right? So this is happening today, and this is the signs of the transformation of our world. We can see that on the last chapter of Genesis from Kardec, the chapter 17, when Kardec talks about this era of transformation from a world of trials and expiations for a world of a regeneration. Trials and expiation is where evil still predominates, unfortunately, right? But, well, progress is a law, right? It's established by God. So in spite of that, we are going to progress. And so next step is the world of a regeneration, where we will not have anymore the predominance of evil, although good still will not predominate. But there will be a kind of a balance, right? So, but it's much better than the situation we have now. And then, but all this process of a transformation doesn't happen by itself, right? The action of many people are needed, and there is where we spiritists have also our part on this tremendous task, right, of a transformation. And so that's why the Spirit says the time approaches when the divine light will be shed over the 2 worlds. He's mentioning the physical world and the spiritual world, so incarnate and discarnate, because we now know through the Spiritist doctrine that life is not on this physical world, right? Life is everywhere. Actually, there is no death, right? Death is only a kind of a transformation phase of our everlasting life, right? So this divine light will be shed over the 2 worlds, because today we are much aware, we spiritists, that we face opposition not only from the those who are incarnated and who don't want the spiritist message to succeed, but also from those from the discarnate world. And then we have the phenomenon of obsession, for example, because they don't want this message to succeed, because if the spiritist or if the Christian message succeed, then they will not have any position or any condition to stay in this world anymore. So it's comprehensible the fight, their fight against the Christian message, right? But then the Spirit says, "Go forth and take the divine word," right? To the great ones who you scorned. So we don't, we must don't. We cannot have much hope of convincing the great ones. To the learned, who will demand the proof. So here's the skeptical position, right, from the learned. But we also will take the divine word to the small and simple, and they will accept it, because they. We that's why we must do this job, right? Because small and simple, lots of people are they are open to listen to this message. So that's why he said just before, right? That I read. The battalion of disbelievers will vanish before you, like the morning mist at the first rays of the rising sun. So that what means to be something big, something strong, will disappear in some moment, right? So that's what he's saying here. It means that even the learned, even the great ones, at some point they will change their mind, right? And so, but then there is here also a recommendation here, because the Spirit says, bear in mind that among those called to Spiritism, many have gone astray. So that's why Jesus said that at the end of the parable, right? Many will be called, but few will be chosen, because to be called, everybody will be called, but to be chosen depends on us, on our intention, on our strong effort, right? On our commitment to do this job that they are hiring us to do, right? So, and then he says, by what sign do we recognize those who are on the righteous path, right? Or the good works, those that will receive the same 1 denarius, or even a little bit more, right? So the Spirit says that we can recognize them by the principles of the true charity they profess and practice, the number of afflicted to whom they take consolation, and their love for their neighbor, their selflessness, and their personal disinterestedness. So that is the characteristic, let's say, of the good workers, of the true workers on the Spiritist mission, right? So this is what I would like to say today about this parable. So message is clearly from 2,000 years ago, but the message is clear, directed to some people who would come 2,000 years later, Jesus, right? Which is today we. It's not we, only us, right? Because we are here in the 21st century, but these workers of the last hour, we can think that they for example, Kardec on the 19th century, he and all those who worked on Spiritism, like Leon Denis, Gabriel Delanne, Camille Flammarion, all of them, Bezerra de Menezes after that, Eurípides Barçanufo, Caibar Schutter, all of them are works of the last hour, right? So this last hour, we cannot think as an hour, right? Or a life, an incarnation like that we are now going through, right? This last hour can mean some centuries, right? Because this big transformation process that Kardec announced at the end of the Genesis, the book of the Genesis, it will take some centuries. Right? The regenerative world will not come in some months or some years. It may take some centuries because it's not easy to change the mind, right? Like the Spirit said, how long will it be? It will take to change the minds of the great ones, of the learned ones, right? So they will take lots of time, right? So that's why we must understand that we are now in the middle of a big process. It may probably will take some centuries, but the, the, the progress will inevitably come because that is the law established by God, and we can see that on the third book of the Spiritist book, right? The law of progress. So that's what I would like to bring today, relating to this parable of the works of the last hour. Now, I would like just to make a brief presentation of the São Paulo State Spiritist Federation, right, where I live. So here's our headquarters in the center of São Paulo. We just did one of the good things that we did during this pandemic was to make a reform of all our building, right? So this was done last year during the pandemic, right? So here's some guidelines, right? What guide our activities at the FESP? We say FESP, right? The São Paulo State Spirit Federation, we say FESP. The strategic position, we say, it means what we want to be, right? And then we want to be a house of welcoming, guiding, and education of the spirit. So everyone who comes into our house, we don't see a physical person, right? We see a spirit, an immortal spirit, and we relate to them looking to a immortal spirit, not only a physical incarnated person, right? So that's our strategic positioning. What is our vision, right? Our golden dream, we say. Our golden dream is to become a reference in the dissemination of the Spiritist doctrine and in the practice of charity, integrated with the national and international Spiritist movements. This final part here is just what we are doing now, right? We are here in the international event. So that's interesting that this is what we set all this 3 years ago at the beginning of our administration, right? And then we go forward to trying to realize all this, to accomplish all this that we had put 3 years ago as a vision that we have at that time, right? And then we have our mission, right? What is our reason for being FESP, right? We workers of the FESP, and we can also think about all the spiritists, right? Our reason for being is prepare men for the world of a regeneration, that process of a transformation that I mentioned, right? Providing fraternal welcome, teaching social well-being, study and dissemination of the Spiritist doctrine, and contributing to Spiritist centers and stimulating the experience of Jesus' morals. So I was, like I was mentioning before, starting this meeting here, I was saying that why is São Paulo State Spirit Federation, right? Federation because we have a lot of spirit centers who are connected to us. So we give some orientation. We all the activity that we have, we transmit to them. So this is what we call federate, right? And then finally stimulating the experience of Jesus moral. So this is our reason for being: help people to enter into the world of regeneration, because entering in the world of regeneration demands a change of our mindset, right? Is by changing our mindset and from that change our thinking or what we talk, or how we act, that that is the way to coming into the world of regeneration. And when every person accomplishes this task, let's say, then we'll have the world of regeneration. So our mission is to help in prepare the people who come to us, who enter into our house to do that, right? And then we have some values, right, that guided our conduct, and the Christian morality, reasoned faith, this from Kardec, right? Doctrinal purity or coherence, charity, brotherhood, ethics, and transparency. So this is the values that guide our conduct as in our work, right? And then here we have an idea of our organizational chart, right? We have the general meeting of associates. We have now about 2,000 associates from the FESP. And then these general meetings, from those people, we have the deliberative council. They vote, right, and elect the deliberative council, who is composed of 96 people, right? And then we have here the president of the deliberative council, who is Maria Isabel Curio. We have also the fiscal council, who overview all the financial issues. And then we have the president, which is me today, and the vice president, my colleague Emilio Fear. And then we have now we have 9 areas, right? We have the spiritual assistance area with our colleague Sueli, and here where we have the I don't know how to say in English, but the passes, right? What we call passes, the spiritual assistance that all is in this area. Then we have the social and educational assistance area, because at FESP we have 3 main activities. One is the dissemination of the Spiritist doctrine, but we also put as much emphasis as this on the social work, right? Because we have lots of this problem in Brazil, and so we work a lot on the social area and also in educational area. So, and these last 2 activities are done by this social and educational assistance area. Then we have the divulgation or dissemination area, is managed by our colleague Jussara. The doctrinal area, who study who does a deep study of the Spiritist doctrine. The teaching area, where we have our courses, Spiritist courses. The federative area, where we have those spiritual centers, Spiritist centers that are connected to us. We manage all these through this area. The financial area, and then we have the childhood, teenager, and youth area, because the teaching area teach for adults, right? And then, but we have an area specific to to the child, teen, and youth, young people, right? And then at last we have the institutional area. This area actually is responsible for uh, looking for the financial resources we need to provide all this the activities, right, that we have in our FASP. So this is a short idea, right, a quick idea of what is our structure, right, organizational structure. Then we will see now the units. We have 5 units, 1 headquarter and 4 branches. So Maria Paula headquarter is at the center of São Paulo. Santa Amaro branch is also in the center of São Paulo. So it's 2 quarters from the Maria Paula headquarters. Maria Paula is the number is a street, right? Maria Paula Street, Santa Amaro Street, which is 2 quarters from Maria Paula Streets. Then we have this Casa Transitória Fabiano de Cristo branch, who is on a neighborhood from São Paulo, near this downtown, right? So this is where we do most of our social work and educational work also. And we have the Casa do Caminho branch, who is more on the periphery of São Paulo. And we have also a branch in the city of São José dos Campos, which is about 60 miles from São Paulo. And so these are the 5 units, just to have some. Well, our social and educational activities are done in these 4 branches, right? Casa Transitória is the larger branch. In the Casa Transitória, we have, for example, our workers with the families under condition of social vulnerability. We have workers with the pregnant women. We have professional courses. We have a home for elder people, people above 60 years old. And we have a judo. We have well, these are the main, and we have also 2. I don't know if it's a nursery or if it's kindergarten. Well, it's a school for children from 6 months to 6 years. So we have 2 schools here in Casa Transitória, and 1 school in São José dos Campos, that's city 60 miles from São Paulo. And Casa do Caminho branches, we also have a social work there, right? So all the social work is done on the branches, and the headquarters. We have basically the work of disseminating the Spiritist doctrine and the social spiritual assistance and so on, right? So just to have some images, this is our headquarters at the center of São Paulo. Now it's functioning, right? And at the right we have the cafe. At the left we have what we call a bazaar, which is we sell goods here, right? And there at the end on the right we have our sellers bookshop, or bookshop, right? And there looking directly, we have our auditorium, which is this here, right? Auditorium for about 800 people. This is the headquarters, and then the Santa Amaro branch, 2 quarters from the headquarters, the Casa Transitória Fabiano de Cristo. We have also a Casa do Caminho branch, and then São José dos Campos branch, right, which is a kindergarten there. So that's a quick idea of what we have at FASP. And then now I will be open to any comments or questions you may have. Let's take out my presentation here.
Thank you so much, Roberto. Thank you.
Well, I thank you for this opportunity to be with you.
Thank you. I'm going to also emphasize it's so inspirational
Mm,
to go back to this topic of the invitation that we have been receiving for so long from
mm,
Jesus. And now Spiritism brings to us clarifications, and seeing the works that the Federation in São Paulo really inspires us all the more, especially for us here in Virginia, where we have only two Spiritist centers, and the Spiritist side of Virginia has been here for 14 years, and we're just baby stepping into,
oh,
yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know, Vanessa, that you are doing a great job in the States. Yeah, because
I, there is so much to be done, and the works that the Spiritist Federation São Paulo does really brings to us more encouragement
mm,
to keep on going, Roberto. I would like to ask our team here,
mm.
uh, Luciana, Daisy, Paloma, and Camila, if they have a question for you, because we all have questions, right?
Don't know if I can answer, but I will try.
Luciana.
Uh,
Yes. Uh, it's interesting, especially we're talking about the last hours, right, as workers, and we are here in this transitioning now. So we're being called to work more, to be more charitable. And then you come finalizing with this beautiful instruction of the Federation. My question is, how many generations and how much work was put into this in order for us to have like a goal? How can we achieve the same in the US? As Vanessa mentioned, we only have two centers right now, and we
mm,
do want to provide all these good things that you just showed to us. So, in a perspective, how can you give us some tips to achieve this goal in expedited, right? Because we are
mm,
trying to transition and we wanted to get there fast. So, what are the tips that you have for us?
mm. Well, I would say, if I can say that, that is a study from one side, and to improve our knowledge of the doctrine. But I think mainly what was in the interpretation of the spirit, right? Perseverance, because for us in Brazil, although we have this job that we do here, is much easier because we are in the spirited country, right? So we are surrounded by spirits from everywhere. So it's easier for us to do our work. But you are the pioneers, right? You are open new ways. And so that's a much tougher job, hard work. So perseverance. I think perseverance is the key word, like the Spirit says. You see by the message from him that he is urging us to keep constant in our effort, because maybe he was thinking there, well, in the mid of the 20th century, that if we spiritists decided to work on this mission, and then we would face many obstacles, right? As he says there, and we are facing today, right? And then we could easily give up from our or let's say our ideal, right? So I think perseverance is the key word. So uh, the job that's being done by you is very important. Is, as I said, is much harder, but you will receive. I would say that you not only will receive one denarius, you will receive more than one denarius. We in Brazil will receive just one because it's easier here.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.
Vanessa, for example, right? Vanessa is working more than 20 years on this job in this state. This is wonderful, right?
Thank
The
you,
spiritual, yeah, the spiritual message is to be spread it throughout the world. It's not only Brazil, right? It's not only São Paulo. So, and who are done this job? You are done that, right? Now we can have this opportunity to share with you part of this job, but you are in the front. You are the pioneers. So don't give up in any way.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you so much. Let me see. Paloma.
I have a question, but Roberto, I think you are being this, spoken for the higher spirits, because they always tell us, always persevere, never give up. There's always more to come. And now we see how so much you are aligned with the higher realm. So thank you for that note. My question was, we need to identify ourselves as the workers of the last hour. We hear a lot, we study about it, but then when it comes to it, we tend to say, well, it's not me, it's somebody else at the center, or the director or the person that is doing the passes, and we remove ourselves from the team.
Mm.
So my question is, when we see this, what are the biggest challenges at our current times for the workers of the last hour?
Well, first of all, I would say that Spiritism is, let's say, a belief, if I can put it that way, for adults, right? It's for people who decided to take his life on his hands. Not so is not someone anymore, someone that is going to blame others for everything that happens, the wrong doing of his life, right? So this is not easy to do. So deciding to be a spiritist is already a difficult decision, and by keeping that decision is as difficult as deciding to get into spiritism, right? So I would say that as the spirit says, just said, we just saw, right? How can we identify the true workers, right? So he says there, right? Is the one who is guided by the love for the neighbors, for understanding, for charity. So all this, there's all the characteristics that he mentioned there. I would say that is internal work with ourselves to try to overcome our, let's say, our imperfections, and at the same time we devoted ourselves to others. So it is a kind of a two jobs that we have done by ourselves, right? Working on ourselves and devoting ourselves to others. I think this is what by this characteristic we can identify who are going well, let's say, on this path, right? On this mission that we choose, right, to follow. I don't know if I answered your question, but
Thank you.
yeah.
Very important questions. Thank you so much, Paloma, for the question. Thank you, Roberto, for the answer. And I know, Daisy, you may also have a question.
Yes, thank you so much, Roberto, for this wonderful presentation. And I thought it was so interesting as you're talking about the workers of the last hour and how, it's not just one reincarnation, something that we're all being called, and has the workers of the last hours, especially has spirit, we here at the Spirit Society of Virginia, and everyone is called also to be a lighthouse for others who are coming, and especially as we are working with the children, with the youth, and educating them, right, as the next generation. Because as you mentioned, FASP comes from many, many, many years, right, of work. So I, would love to hear about your recommendations as we work with the children and the youth, especially in a world that is so materialistic, right? Where it's so, it's so hard to think that, they might come for a class once a week, but then, they still go out there and they're focused in so many different things, and in talking about religion, even in our society, it's a taboo, no one talks about God, no one talks about Jesus. So how do we change that, and how we really give children and youth the power? Because we see that they are different, they come and they will surpass us, but how can we work with them to really guide them to the right direction?
Well, there's something interesting that I was thinking when I entered into this room, and other lives that I did with people from Ireland or from England. Uh, it is interesting because you are talking about the young people. Well, I'm seeing here young people. It's interesting that you and you abroad, most of the spiritists are young people. In Brazil, this is a problem. Days. I even don't know if I can answer your question because we are facing this problem. For example, let me give you an example. When we closed our doors March of last year, and then we are wondering about when we are going to return to our activities. And then Sui, our director of the spiritual assistance, did kind of research on all the workers that we have, and we before we closed our doors, we have 6,000 workers here at TRESP. And then do you want to know what she found? Is that about 90% of our workers are above 50 years. So we have a serious problem here in Brazil. I would say that not only at FESP, but I would say the spiritist movement, Brazilian spirit movement, has been some trouble in attracting young people. This is a big problem. So when you say that you have also this kind of concern there abroad, I think that we have also here, and what I can see is that, for example, I don't know in the States, but in Europe, for example, people today are very agnostic, and not only adult, but only young people, because and I understand that because they have a whole history, unfortunately, a Christian history of wars, of conflicts, lots of problems. Right? So they are fed up with the religion. They don't want to hear about the God, like you said, right? So it's understandable in Europe, but I think it's not the same in the States, and it's not in Brazil also. But the fact is, this is a problem that we are facing here, and we are trying to see a way to resolve it, right? So I would say that I cannot give you this answer today because this is also our problem. But we are, as the Spirit recommended us, we are going to persevere on this goal, right? To bring the young people, because they are the future, right, of the spiritual. You are the future, the spiritual. You that I'm talking now, you are the future. So, uh, but at the moment, I can't answer that. I wouldn't be true if I would try to give you an answer that I don't have today.
Thank you, Roberto. We have here a comment by Bruce Ness. He's from Oregon, and he didn't finish his thought, but in the United States, it's different from Brazil in so many ways because Brazil is for the most part, a Catholic country, very Christian country. In the United States, we would say it's a Christian country, but it's very different. There is a diversity of religions nowadays, and he's
Mhm.
saying that spiritists must address as much as possible a non-sectarian outreach. And we were just, Roberto, we were just talking about it before we began the program
Mm.
because um, because we're talking about Luis who Rivas kits for children, and in Portuguese it says Evangelho, kit do Evangelho.
Mm.
We were talking about how we're going to rename it in English, and we were
Mm.
just discussing it. If we say gospel kits, we're not going to go far because the many people who do not embrace Christianity yet may come to spiritist centers, but they may face some obstacles when we label certain things to a certain uh, religion, sect, or thought. So, based on your experience, your studies, how do you see this? Um, because you are talking about the call to also disseminate, and even the federation in Sao Paulo having this golden dream of disseminating even internationally. And you have been the person who has been, expanding beyond the Brazilian territory as well. How do you see these difficulties in terms of, bringing these teachings that are deeply rooted in the Christ consciousness?
Mm. Um, could you rephrase the question, Vanessa?
That the question is based on Bruce Ness' comment
Mm.
is how do you see us spiritists facing the the lack of understanding of the Christ consciousness, the Christianity per se, to disseminate Spiritism, because Spiritism without Christ consciousness doesn't exist.
Yeah.
When we come to, for example, to the United States, where many people may understand about Jesus, but in our Spiritist centers, we see many people who come through our doors who don't want to talk about it or don't understand about Jesus at all. So, how do
Mm.
you see Spiritism bridging it up to these groups of people?
Mm. Wow. Uh, well, Vanessa, we, 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 we normally we are concerned about the message that we are going to give it people who look for our home, our houses, our spiritist houses. But there is also that other recommendation, right? That we let's say we people are affected more than words by the examples. Right? So where we are not listening, right? So the spirit said also about that, right? The learned, the great ones, they will not. They don't want to listen to us, right? So, and great, it doesn't mean something rich people, right? Something, someone who thinks that he knows everybody, for example. So his glass is full. So he is not. He don't want to listen. I think in that case we should just do our work to by our example, we can gradually maybe change all this situation because people look for solutions or for new ways as life obliged them to do that, right? Uh, when they have a way of thinking and nothing urge them to change ways, he will keep it that way. I understand that there I understand why Kardec, for example, always said that the spiritism does not make I don't know if in English that, but it does not make proselytism, right? We do not go everywhere and come and call people to come into spiritism. They come by themselves, and but it is interesting that you are mentioning people who come to spiritism but don't want to listen some specific message. It's a surprise to me to hear this from you because I know that that is the case in the Europe, but I didn't know that it was in the States also. But I would say that when our message is not listened, well, uh, we still we have we as example of by the way we live, by the way we do things. I don't know if that could resolve the question, but is what we can do, right?
Yes, yes. There's a lot of work to be done. And talking about work, Roberto, our friend Vera Wilkinson is asking if there are meetings by the federation in Portuguese via Facebook. They right. I remember when I was there with you, YouTube and
Yes.
Facebook, right?
Yeah, yes. You and I, Vanessa, have been with us. We have every second and fourth Sunday of the month at 10 o'clock Brazilian time. We have our public speech, and then Vanessa was with us, I think 2 months ago, right? And
Yes.
then so this is something that we have. We also have what we call the São Paulo Spiritist Group, which it's FESP, USE, which is another organization, and Aliança, which a third organization. So three big organizations from the state of São Paulo joined efforts together. And we do also this spiritist, it's not a meeting, but it's live, right? Every month, last Saturday of the month by 3 o'clock Brazilian time. But all these are lives, are speech, right? I don't know if Vera is asking about meetings in the sense of the spiritual assistance. I don't know, but if she's asking about spiritual assistance, as I said, we are going to begin that by the beginning of October here in the São Paulo downtown. So, but as she is asking Facebook or Zoom, then she's asking about the virtual activities. So I would say that we also have the spiritual assistance virtually by YouTube, and we have, for example, on Friday and Friday at 2 p.m. and Wednesday night at 8 a.m. So we have some these all these activities. I recommend her to see at our site our FASP site, and there she can find all the information.
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Roberto, we cannot thank you enough for the opportunity of receiving your, the studies you brought, the knowledge, your encouragement to all of us. We want to thank you so much for this opportunity. And before we move to the spiritual passes and the prayer, would like to ask if you have a final comment for those who are with us right now.
Yes, I would like to thank you for the invitation. I was very happy to be here with you, all these young spiritists, and well, very very glad actually, really to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Roberto. And now would like to ask our friend Luciana, followed by Paloma, as they're going to lead us into the passes and the prayer. Dear friends, if you are here with us, whether you're live or on demand, this is a moment where the good spirits, they come to us. They have been with us in your house, in our house, no matter where you are. If you're, so many people write to us saying, I was at work. No matter where you are, if you're driving, don't close your eyes, of course, but stay connected, believe, and feel the presence of the loving spirits who, in the name of God, under the administration of Jesus, are caring for each one of us. Let us open ourselves and give them a hand so they can help us in our needs, and trust, because faith is everything. Luciana, please.
So let us close our eyes if we can, and feeling the loving energies that the doctors and nurses of the spiritual realm has provided to us tonight. Breathing in and out to facilitate the connection with the divine healing light that is showering and illuminating our spiritual body and physical body. We are ready to receive the blessings, visualizing our loving Master Jesus in front of us. His love and His care for each and one of us, it's so immense that as we look at Him, we feel His love and we feel so connected to Him. And His loving energies can permeate us, aligning our chakras, aligning our soul with this flow of love. And as our body is ready to receive the treatment that we need, we see ourselves illuminated and connect with the heart of our Master. This exchange of energy purify and give us all that we need in order to heal the wounds, in order to provide us strength that we need, and the brightness so we can see the pathway to follow. And as we feel lighter and blessed, we now visualize this loving energy enveloping our home. Everyone and everything in both realms of life are being enveloped, being treated, receiving all that is necessary to go through this flow of love. And we now visualize the neighborhood receiving these healing energies. Our town, our cities, state, and countries are receiving the blessings provided to us tonight. We feel so much love, and we can see this light shining in us as it shines on the Creator. And we now see the whole planet Earth being enveloped in this healing energy, healing everyone and everything in both realms of life. And as we lovingly continue receiving the blessings in gratitude, we'll pray with our dear friend Kardec.
Dear beloved Master Jesus, we first want to thank you for inspiring the teachings of tonight, for allowing Roberto to be here with us, for such a constructive and inspirational talk. Divine Master, we understand the urgent needs of our planets, and we know that we can achieve so much more when we are together. So we pray for all of us that are connected through this talk, that we have the courage and the strength to come forward and work in the good, that we feel revitalized by this talk, and that we are full of energy to partake in such beautiful work. We feel joy in our hearts, and we want to share these blessings that we received tonight. So, Divine Master, we pray that feelings of joys are spread all around, that we see the United States being enveloped by these feelings of happiness, of acceptance. And we pray, Divine Master, for our brothers and sisters that are coming now to the United States, that they are received with open arms, that they are supported by our community that does so much for one another. And with that, Divine Master, feeling enormous gratitude for this talk and for Roberto, Kardec Radio and the Spiritist Society of Virginia, we ask for your permission and under your protection to close these moments of today, and so be it.
What a joy, dear friends. And once again, gratitude to Roberto for being here with us, encouraging us for more and recruiting more workers, Roberto.
Yeah,
Right? We hope
right.
to have you more often here. Thank you so much for
I
this.
thank you.
And a big hug to the friends of the Federation in Sao Paulo.
Thank
And
you.
we wish you all the best. Thank you, Roberto.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, friends. Thanks to everyone who has been with us. As John DeRosa says, many people are interested in the spirit phenomenon. Maybe the message to emphasize. Thank you also, John, and all the friends. As Michele Freire says, preach the gospel at all times. If necessary, use words, quoting Francis of Assisi. So, friends, if you have a question or a particular need, write to us at kardecradio@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to hear from you. In the meantime, keep watching, keep listening, keep sharing, subscribing, and connected. The world needs all of us to disseminate the word of consolation and hope. Thank you, friends.